The guitars that I've had have been extremely intimate relationships with identities in their own right. They've been full of all kinds of spontaneity and stimulation. This particular instrument has been a gift from a fine luthier from Puerto Rico, currently in Long Island, New York City. He made this as a gift for me. I was performing at the Bottom Line in 1985, and Abe Rivera, that being his name, came to that particular performance, at which time I was using one of Tommy Gumina's sweethearts, Polytone, solid body, and Abe went out of his way to make sure that I would be pleased with a personal reaction on his part, and he designed and carved by hand and inlaid this in such a way that he really floored me with it, you know. One thing that is amazing is the weight of this instrument. It's been made with a number of exotic woods, types of wood that have been shipped in, imported, and it's an extremely heavy instrument. So, as far as being hard to play, difficult to play, that's a state of mind, and it comes down to adjusting oneself to the tools that we have to work with, and they become secondary after a while, and you don't feel what you would normally feel when you're free of mind and you walk up to an instrument solely as a separate unit in its own right. Then you feel the weight of it. You can more or less analyze the difference between what you were using at that time by comparison, and that's how that works. In this particular case, I fell in love with it when Abe presented it to me as a gift. And from that moment forward, it's been very difficult to pinpoint anything different due to the fact that it's very holistic in my relationship with it. As far as the string gauges that I use, rarely do I use them through comfort. There are many other practical reasons for me to choose what I manipulate at any given time. In the case of most of the guitars that I've ever used, with the exception, let's say, of the Adamas that the delightful Cayman brothers presented to me as a gift some time back, being nylon with a graphite top is a little different than this type of instrument. The gauge on these strings, comparatively to the nylon strings on that particular Adamas, these are heavy gauge, very heavy gauge, for a number of reasons. I never have focused my attention upon picking and attack in terms of the amount of pressure that I use on the plectrum that I'm working with at any given moment. But there is one thing that is in common and very consistent throughout the years that I've used guitars. I have a tendency of picking extremely hard, and this causes me to depend upon a very heavy gauge string at any given moment, because I have a tendency of breaking strings like rubber bands. So due to the fact that I formulate a very staccato type of attack, it's demanded upon me to use heavy gauge strings. On the instrument at this given moment, I'm using a 16 for an E, rather a 15, I'm sorry, 15, a 17 for the B, 26 for the G, 36 for the D, 46 for the A, and 56 for the E. Normally, I use a 16 for the E, an 18 for the B, 26 for the G, 36 for the D, 48 for the A, and 58 for the E. And that really gives me a very powerful staccato feeling. Pioneering plectrums in terms of their quality, the type of substances used for the plectrum in itself. I've lived a very silent life, you know, a solitary bird, so to speak, in the early days as a sideman, traveling on a constant basis into strange places, you know, and during those years I would enjoy taking a walk into a forest or a beach and I would find pieces of wood coincidentally in the shape that would of a plectrum that would fit very well, you know, and different stones and pebbles from beaches and from different ground lays that after a while became a very mystical experience for me, you know, and it enhanced a great deal. Now I'm using, at this particular time, I'm using extra heavy picks in terms of the type. I enjoy using picks of this size, triangular in shape, due to the fact that I have a tendency of wearing them down to certain degrees where they become intimately different from each other, the different sides. So that very much like a regular pick, this is a Fender extra heavy, very thick, and also gives me control from this end, a wider area. This being also a Fender, it's an extra heavy as well. And in the use of one of this nature with a pointed end, there are times when I use that accordingly so that I can get the sound. There's a very sharp staccato. As opposed to the round side, which I'll switch over and play like that for a much more warmer, as opposed to this one. So I have EQ, equalization, from the plectrum itself in a very useful way, you know, so. Yeah, I think it's important to keep an open mind to music, including all kinds of music. We're in a global warming of an intake, an impasse of so many different cultures and types that new forms of music are constantly on the upgrade, primarily because they're all blending together with a larger vision of a collective, unified reality. It's happening at all times. And you are affected whether you hear it or not, including myself, and I think it's good to keep an open mind.
This concludes Creative Force, Part 1 with Pat Martino. We hope you'll join Pat for Part 2 as he demonstrates improvising over various chord progressions using his minor conversion concept. He also discusses the augmented chord as a parental form for developing interesting triadic structures. And finally, learn some of Pat's hauntingly beautiful solo guitar arrangements.